Hey there, everybody. Yes, you are seeing another episode of the Wonderfully Knit podcast. Happy to see you guys again this week. So, not a whole bunch to talk about this week in the way of projects. I'm going to do this a little bit in reverse this week for several reasons. So, I'm going to talk about projects and things first. First, of course, this is the Wonderfully Knit podcast, a video podcast that's about being a non-traditional pre-med student who is all kinds of crafty. I probably need to be a little less widely crafty so I can get some stuff done, because this week has been a lot about how I need to focus on one thing a little more. So yeah, this week, like family wise, we withdrew my first grader. And we are going to be homeschooling her because we know we're going to be moving probably by the end of her semester. And what I really don't want to do is try to have her adjusting to so many things all at once. This way she can be homeschooled through the end of the year. Everything is fine. And the only thing that she has to adjust to all at once is a new school. And then down the road, new house and living probably near her grandparents and the aunts and uncles on her daddy's side. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. I have homeschooled before. I homeschooled my eldest for about 3.5 years until my youngest was born, and she started having some problems that resulted in my attention needing to be spent on that. For various health reasons. Now everything's golden and working out, and we wanted to go ahead and take this step while I'm at home, and it looks like I'm going to be at home through the end of the semester. So that's actually good times. I actually really enjoy homeschooling my kids. You have to have a kind of a certain personality to be able to homeschool your kids. I will say that much. It's not for everybody, which is great. Because public school is not for everybody, private school is not for everybody. So looking forward to that. We've already had a couple of days this week. Yes, it's Wednesday. We've had some sickness go down with our youngest as well. We think she probably just ate something that didn't agree with her. We don't know what it is, but at any rate, now she's feeling a whole lot better. She's back to running. As a matter of fact, today we got out because it's like 60 degrees. Finally, it's warm weather. It's very humid and it's overcast, but we didn't even care. So there's puddles. Big deal. She's 6. Maybe she jumps in a puddle. Oh, darn. So that's great. Working out really, really well. Last week, of course, featured a lot of running around as we tried to get her registered with her homeschool. We go with an umbrella school. Registered with that school and get her taken out of her previous public school. And that just involved a whole lot of running. And then, of course, she got sick. So, plus adjusting to teach it. As a result of all of that, of course, there's not been a whole lot of project done. The frightening thing is that in one of these projects, this project right here, this project that's just the toe of a sock, yeah, it used to have like half a foot attached to it in color work. But I had to pull it out because I got halfway up the foot and I realized I'd bunged it up real bad. And it was bad enough that I really needed to just frog all the way back to the flipping toe. I hate that. I mean, yeah, I get to do more knitting. Yes, sure, whatever. But at the same time, I want to do the knitting right. So I'm going to just sit down with the pattern, evaluate what really went wrong. I think I know, but, it's good to make sure before you start it and really bung it up again. And then maybe, throw it against a wall. I don't know. So there's that. Insofar as other projects go, work continues on the house, which you guys are not going to see. And then also I've been reading in the Applesies and Foxnoses book, which is really great stuff. If you guys have, I wanted to show you the inside. If you're interested in learning Finnish, this is kind of a Rosetta Stone approach to it, because what you can see here, like on this page right here, you can probably see that first paragraph is in Finnish, and then the lower paragraph is the same paragraph in English. So it's good stuff. And that doesn't give any away. That's talking about the find where that pattern was found. So, and then also I've been reading in this book, which is The Modern Maker Volume 1, Men's Doublets by Matthew Nagy. He has written he's written another book as well about knitwear, which is a good book, and I recommend it to you if you're interested in sideways knit clothes. He is modernly he's a tailor. He found the way that they applied the way that Berguen manuscript was written by a tailor who had the last name of Berguen, and he was Belgian or Spanish, I can't remember. He was one of those. There was a tradition that had popped up in the later 16th or in the 16th century where it was discovered that for apprentices learning the trade of tailor, it was useful for them to have a reference book that they could look at to memorize all of these shapes, because they totally memorized them and they memorized how they should be used. And there was a method of measurement that you could apply using the golden mean of man, basically the golden mean of the measurements of man, which is the idea that artists can use, wherein your head, right? The height of your head is 1/8 the height of your standing body. This assumes the anatomic normal. And of course, using this method, you can draft a pattern like that. It's still used modernly. There's a pattern company out there called Lutterloh, Lutterloh, also called the Golden Stitch, because it's based on the golden mean. And they're out of Germany. They are still publishing. They started publishing back before World War II. They are still publishing patterns today. And the pattern booklet is actually so many patterns, and the pattern booklet is only about that thick, about 4 or 5 millimeters thick, and about, I don't know, 6 inches by 4 inches. And yet it has all of these clothing patterns in it. Whereas, of course, one simplicity pattern in a store is this is about 6 by 4, but it's also about that thick, and it's 80 billion pattern pieces you have to cut out, and then you have to find the one that's you, and usually it's only one article of clothing. So it's a very efficient sort of pattern thing. And the Lutterloh company has a kind of a freebie introduction wherein you make a vest. You apply your measurements using their system. And it's very, very interesting. If you are interested in drafting your own sewing patterns that are generally going to fit your body right away, as opposed to going out and buying one of the big 3 patterns, Simplicity or McCall's or Butterick or, well, and now Vogue, and then seeing if their scaling applies to your measurements and then trying to tweak everything, which you're still drafting anyway. You might give those a try. You're still going to end up tweaking it because it is dealing with golden mean. And every person out there generally has some normal anatomic variance. You might have to raise a bust point or lower a bust point. What if your waist is smaller than this waist is really accounting for in this one? That kind of thing, relative to your hips. So check it out if you're interested. So that's a good project. Insofar as stash goes, I have real basic stash enhancement. I have this, just a couple of skeins of some white red heart sock yarn. It's the sock wool. It's not the acrylic stuff. I don't really go for acrylics at all in yarn because when I was a kid, it was the only thing I had available, and I got really, really tired of it. I just, no offense to anybody who likes acrylic. That's fine. That's great. If you've got a great yarn you love, do that thing. I would rather not. All right. And so then stash also, this one you're not going to see, but I'll show you a little bit. So there's this little sweater right here that I knit for a little boy. My neighbors got pregnant, and I didn't find out about it until rather late in the pregnancy. And so this wasn't really done in time to give them a very good present, but I was going to still finish it anyway because babies are born every day. And sure enough, and now this is going to go to a friend's new nephew. And so what I have done, because I hadn't put the buttons on it at all yet, what I have done is I have hand sewn on a band. And so I'm going to put the for show buttons on the outside above the band. And on the other side, I'm going to put a not for show, very smooth, probably clear buttons, because those are, whatever, cheapy buttons. And the band, and then attaching the buttons so that there's a button in front and a button in back, will prevent the button from pulling out of the knit. It will prevent the button from pulling the knit as well. And so you'll have a better wearing, longer wearing item. And that particular size is not actually for a newborn, but I'm told this little dude who is just born is a chunker, so it should fit him okay. Here's hoping. If not, maybe it'll fit him next winter pretty okay, or next fall pretty okay, because he's in an area where it gets cold and stays cold for rather a long time, rather long portion of the year. So yeah, that's the projects that I have for you to talk about today. I've done a little bit of cleaning in here, but you're not going to see it because it's basically behind or to the sides of the camera. So projects. Okay, so on to the med school moment thing. So it's one of my favorite times of the year, and so far as medical school goes. It's the time of the year when the fourth year medical students here I forget if it's the end of March. No, it's March 15th. They discover where they're going for residency because it's match day. So over the course of their fourth year, if not at the end of their third or so, and over the summer, medical school students have evaluated, have interviewed with various residency programs. If you're not aware of how this works, the way it works is that you go to college for 4 years usually. You get your degree and you go to med school for 4 years. And then after that, you have your MD, but you're not ready to practice because humans are too complicated to learn all about how to both recognize normal function and recognize abnormal function, and then prescribe a treatment plan for those abnormal function where it's possible and where it's advisable in just 4 years. It's not going to happen. And so the residency embraces that idea and embraces basically the apprenticing idea from the previous eras of humanity wherein apprenticeship was applied. And so you have your residencies, which vary from 3 to 7 years, and with fellowships, and then deciding that you want to do a subspecialty, it can go even longer. So where you end up going to your residency is a very important day. So match day is match day. So in addition to all this, you've got your first and second year students. Now at this point of the year, your second year students are actually very nervous about taking the USMLE Step 1 test, which is the first part that you must pass in order to go on to third and fourth year subclinicals for most schools. It's the most important test. And you may hear some noise in the background. My eldest has gotten home from school, and there's some discussion about that. So I'm going to keep talking through it. Hopefully you don't hear it. The mic's not quite that sensitive. But so match day, yes. So they're going to discover when they do that. So all right, and then second years are studying for the first test, which is part of being able to say, yes, I'm able to be a doctor. It's basically everything that you covered in years 1 and 2, and then they get twisted with it. And of course, they've known now that they can handle first year, so they can handle, and they've handled second year, most of second year. They're probably going to be okay with the USMLE if they really, really cram really hard and study their butts off. Yeah. And so, and by this point in the first years are going, okay, I might survive this, and I might get to be a doctor. So they're starting to relax a little too. And they start having fun with it. You get talented, smart people together, and things happen. Things happen like medical school student group Parody Songs, which are my favorites. I love them. So I did, actually last night, a bit of a YouTube search. Seriously, a lot of the stuff that Harvard Medical and Harvard Dental Schools come out with are good stuff. I've seen some good stuff out of Yale too, and Toronto, and just all over the place. But if you go on YouTube and you do a search, medical school parody or parodies, you'll get a lot of good stuff. One of my favorite ones that the Harvard Medical School has done is the Gunner song, which is done to the tune of Thrift Shop by Macklemore, which is probably the best thing you could do to the tune Thrift Shop by Macklemore. Let's be honest. This lady flows a whole lot better than her anyway, or better than him anyway. So there's a version of Rolling in the Deep called Waiting for the Beep. When you start doing your sub-internships or subclinicals, sub-I. Basically, this is a clinical practical that you start doing in your third year after you've spent your first year learning normal anatomy and physiology and normal state of the body, and then you spent your second year learning abnormal state of the body. And so now you're like, okay, let's do a little practice with what we're trying to do. And so this is about your first shift where you have your beeper. It's called waiting for the beep. So check that one out. There's all kinds of stuff. As a matter of fact, a I found a playlist. There's a great playlist. Somebody did Doctors to the tune of Royals. Somebody did Steady Maybe to Call Me Maybe, because everybody did parodies to Call Me Maybe. Everybody did parodies to Call Me Maybe. I saw one last night that was for Blank Space. It was hilarious. Oh, I Knew You Were Trouble got parodied by I Knew It Was Trauma. Anyway, check that out. Have a lot of fun. If you find something you really like, please put it in the comments. I've started a thread on the Ravelry group, which can be found on Ravelry by going to Ravelry.com, logging in and searching in groups for Wonderfully Knit podcast. You'll find my group, and you'll find the thread under Discussions tab. Or you can comment on this entry at wonderfullyknitpodcast.blogspot.com. Let me check that, because it may just be blogspot.com, and I am a goober. Wonderfullyknitpodcast.blogspot.com. And of course on our Facebook page as well. I've started a comment thread on the Facebook page for the Wonderfully Knit podcast as well. Check that out. Please comment. I love parody songs. I love them to death, because deep inside where my musical heart is, it's a little twisted. So let me know about that. Okay. I think that's about it for this week. Not a big long one, like I said, because there wasn't a whole lot of in the way to talk about with regards to project and homeschooling, and yeah, I think we're pretty good there. So you guys have a really great one. Let me know about those parody songs. I have to have more. Give me more. All right. We'll talk to you later.